Hey everyone, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week we review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests ranging from film professionals to comedians to podcasters like Johnny Ganache from the legendary Pint. Listen and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at NomcastPod.
Hey there, this is John from Pint.
And I'm Lloyd, also from Pint.
And I'm the other John, and you get it by now. As you may know, we sometimes use language on this show that can be described as...
filthy.
Okay.
Reprehensible?
Crude?
Sure.
Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. We all know that it's just plain out gutter talk.
You've been warned. Listen in.
Welcome to the Pint Movie Invitational Series.
You remind me of the babe. Babe with the power. Power of voodoo. You do. Remind me of the babe. A goblin babe. Well.
That didn't work out the way you thought it would.
No, it sprayed all over me.
Yeah, it only made that one sound. Usually it's... And that was like that sounded like, you'll remember better than me because I was too young.
It's flat, too.
Is it flat? remember when the beer cans had the pull tabs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was probably like your first beer, I'd assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Another episode of Pint. As you know, if you hear our friend Andrew Morgan at the beginning of the episode introducing the Pint Movie Invitational Series, that means we have special guests on, and they picked a movie and came on, and we're going to talk about that movie. So today, we've got my internet friend, Kyera. Kyera is here to talk about what movie?
The Labyrinth.
The Labyrinth, starring the David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. With her, she brought her boyfriend, Chris.
Hey, what's happening, guys?
What's going on? Chris did not watch Labyrinth recently, but he will chime in, which is cool.
I do remember. I've seen it within the past year. She's shown it to me, I think.
Okay, so you're good, but this is Kyera's choice, and when we start these things, the first question I have is, why did you pick Labyrinth, and what does Labyrinth mean to you in particular?
Oh, Jesus. That's a hell of a question.
Well, I mean, is it like it was one I loved when I was a kid, or this means something to me, like
I really just kind of grew up watching it. It's the first time, more so it has more to do with David Bowie, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a big David Bowie fan?
I am.
Lloyd's a huge David Bowie fan.
Yeah, a woman after my own heart.
Lloyd's wife informed Lloyd the morning David Bowie died that he died. And Lloyd, he's talked about it on the show before. You still remember this, huh? Well, you said you cried on the way to work, right?
No, on the way home from work.
On the way home from work.
I had to get work over with.
Yeah.
And I cried all the way home.
And I want to put this out there that I am in no way, shape, or form making fun of that. That's your
level
connection,
of devotion.
Level of devotion, you know?
Yeah, the connection, yeah. And I was like a blubbering fool when I got home. Why am I crying? Why am I crying?
Well, we've discussed it here before, and we'll get into the movie in a second, but Bowie is like the subject that, his whole, and we've talked about it on the show, but it's almost like you can't talk about it too much. His whole last couple days on Earth, still weird. Like, not in a bad way, but like the way that he didn't announce he was dying. He kind of dies, puts an album out on the same day, right? And then he puts that video out, which was brutal. Have you ever seen that, Chris?
Yeah, pretty dark.
So dark. I mean, it ends with him. You've seen it too, right, Kyera?
I actually haven't watched it.
Good for you.
I refuse.
Good for you.
Button eyes.
He's got button eyes, and it seems like it's a journey of someone who's like, he's in bed.
It's like foreshadowing.
Almost, right? And it ends with him kind of crawling into a cupboard and shutting the doors on himself. And it's just, it is, it's cool at the same time because the guy was an artist and he ended his life with art. You know what I mean?
On his terms.
On his terms.
Yeah. And I think widely regarded one of the kind of return to form type of of albums that he could have made. Like a lot of people said critically that it was a pretty decent album.
I've heard that. I will fully admit that for me, I think David Bowie is super cool. I appreciate him, but I never listened to a full Bowie album in my life. For me, Bowie would be like greatest hits.
We're both
right.
We're both
and that's I don't know. Are you a Bowie fan, Chris? Or
I guess I'm probably closer of a Bowie fan to like your type of fandom than necessarily my girlfriend's. Yeah, for sure. I can't. I've sat through whole albums before, but do I often put them on? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you like going back to the '60s Bowie, or do you prefer more of the newer stuff, Kyera?
I'm kind of just all over the place, but generally mostly the older stuff. That being said, I don't remember which album it was, but he did the I'm Afraid of American song in the 90s with Trent Reznor.
Yeah, Trent Reznor.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah, I remember hearing
I used
the title.
to work at a music store when that came out, and I remember being like, wow, that's pretty wild that he's actually going, because at the time, big beat techno and like Prodigy.
Yeah.
It was like very big at that time, and it was kind of cool. He's always had that thing where he kind of goes in and is able to take what's happening now and make it his own.
Yeah, he's the first person, right?
He's constantly changing his persona, who he is,
right?
Even to the end, yeah.
And I think I read this at one point a long time ago. He's the first person to release an album online, like as in like a digital download. I think one of his later albums was one of the first ones that was like available not in physical form first.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, we'll look it up after, but I think one of his albums from like the mid 2000s was when they're still pressing CDs now, but I think it was one that was released only digitally. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
All right. I will look that up, and we'll correct ourselves on the next episode of the Pint if we're wrong.
I know Radiohead did that, and so did Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, Radiohead did that with the Pay Your Own thing. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been interested in like it's? I feel weird about that because I feel like if I only give them $3,
pay whatever you want for it.
I don't want to be cheap, but at the same time, there's that temptation to say, "Oh, I'm not going to pay $12 for that." You know what I mean?
Well, I'll pay a little bit, and then I'll, they're going to release it, which they did,
right? But
eventually, and then you just go buy that.
So you double dip. Would you double dip if you did that, or would you just keep the digital?
I generally, the only time I ever buy any music digitally is if it's a local band. Honestly.
Okay.
Like, other than that, I will go out of my way to go, like, down the hallway to buy a physical CD, or I just listen to it on Spotify because I'm a terrible human.
That's the way it is now, though.
Yeah. I don't think, first of all, you're not a terrible human. And second of all, I think that's the way a lot of people are doing it anyway. I have Amazon Music.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of shit on there. There's a ton of stuff on there. And
yeah, there's so much.
I pay a certain amount a month, and I could, I don't own the album, but I mean, I could listen to it 100 times in a row if I want to.
You lose the connection with the music when it's all digital.
All right, that's a discussion for a whole nother.
Right. We're here for Labyrinth.
We're getting deep, but we actually went into a Labyrinth about Labyrinth.
Yeah, right.
So Labyrinth came out, let's see. It came out in 1986 on, here we go. What a mess. June 27th of 1986. So, Kyera, how old were you? You probably were not born yet?
I wasn't even born yet.
Not born yet, Chris?
You said what was the month again?
June 27th of 86.
I was 5 and a half.
5 and a half, all right.
5 and a half.
So, we're not going to say how old Bowie was.
Hello?
I
was in college, just to say that.
I was 10 years old, going on 11, and I remember seeing Labyrinth in the movie theaters. I remember nothing about it, except I just had a feeling I must never have liked it because I never watched it again. I never sought it out again. And I know, you're not the only one, Kyera. It's very popular. Our friend Silent Tony, who I work with and we're good friends with, loves this movie.
Yeah.
He loves this movie.
Tony.
He's always talking about it. He's offered to lend it to me before, and I was like, I just don't think so. So it came out on June 27th. It is a Jim Henson movie. That rings my bell because I'm a big Muppets guy. So Jim Henson directed this movie. And it was basically originally conceived by Brian Froud.
Brian Froud,
who is Conceptual Designs. He came up with an idea. He's a kind of a fantasy illustrator. He does pictures of goblins and fairies and stuff like that. He's British.
I think this was all about the goblins with him. He just decided to come up with this concept. And, I guess it was the baby surrounded by goblins.
Which, by the way,
into a movie.
I don't want to push too far ahead.
Yeah.
But there's a scene in the movie where the baby is surrounded by a bunch of goblins.
Mm-hmm.
How fucked do you think that baby was that day?
Well,
honestly.
The baby actually had a lot of fun from what I've heard and seen.
Really? Did that look like fun to you?
Well, what I do know is that the whole time it was being filmed, when he was on Jareth's lap, he had a sock on his hand. distracting that baby.
Okay.
So the baby was completely unfazed.
There's the scene where, and again, we'll get into
the baby was Brian Froud's son, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah, Brian Froud's son. Yeah, the conceptual designer. It's Toby Froud, his son.
Wow.
Yeah,
and he makes puppets now.
And he does. He makes puppets now. Absolutely. See, she doesn't need notes.
She don't need notes.
I needed notes to know that. I think she already knew that. So
he had to be influenced then in some way.
I would think so. I
would have assumed that he would have been, completely tormented for the rest of his life because, for a small child, what was going on in that room?
Yeah,
the musical scene, correct? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. To me, it would have been horrifying.
I would not have dug that either in any way, shape, or form. All right, so Brian Froud is the conceptualist of this. He comes up with an idea. Jim Henson likes the idea. They decide to work on it together. Dennis Lee was a children's author and poet that Jim Henson hired to write a short novella that then they were going to base a screenplay off of. I didn't read a lot into it. I don't know what the point of that was. So he hires Dennis Lee. He writes this novella. Then they hire, and this is a part that kills me. I had no clue about this.
You're talking about
Terry Jones.
Terry Jones, yeah.
Terry Jones from Monty Python wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing: he wrote the first screenplay.
Right.
And do you know about this, Kyera? That the fact that he disowned it. He didn't like where he liked his screenplay. Jim Henson changed it a bit, and Terry Jones didn't dig it.
I think I had read that somewhere.
Yeah. So Jones basically said by the time there was 5 or 6 rewrites, you don't have to put my name on it. They kept his name on it.
Right.
So it's screenplay by Terry Jones, but in all reality, he doesn't even, I think there was an interview where he said the way the story went and the way his story went, the way the actual movie went and the way that his story went were two different things. And he was, I'm sure, fine to get paid for it. And he doesn't mind they kept his name on it. But so basically we have a movie, and this is where I want you to come in, Kyera. I want you to explain to everybody out there who has never seen Labyrinth, which hopefully if you've never seen it before, stop this episode right now. Go watch Labyrinth. You're either going to be upset with me or you're going to be happy. I don't know. If
you like Muppets, I think you'll like it.
But
you love Muppets and you don't. Well,
there's a lot of I appreciated about this movie. There's a lot I didn't too. But what is this movie about?
So basically, this girl, Sarah, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
Where did that go? See, notes. This is where my notes would have come in handy.
We're testing you.
God damn it. She is living with her father, who has been remarried. I don't know if they got into it in the movie, but
not in
the book, she has nothing. Like her mom was an actress, and she has nothing to do with her mother.
Oh, so wait, real quick, you've read the book that this is based on?
I just recently started it. I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
I have no time to read anymore. But she's living with her dad and her stepmom and her, what do they call that? Her stepbrother?
Sure.
Half-brother?
Yes.
Half-brother.
Half-brother, right.
And she is just, typical tortured teenage girl. Woe is me. Woe is my life. Very dramatic. Has to babysit. And the baby starts crying. And it turns into this whole thing where she had been reading the play.
Right. Wasn't she practicing the play, the first scene of the movie?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was a play.
Yeah.
Was the whole...
I got the idea that it was a school play of some sort.
Yeah.
Right?
And then she ran home because she remembered she had a babysit.
Yeah.
So basically, the movie is I guess the movie is the play working out, but she gets upset that the baby is crying and she's like, oh, I hope the goblins come and take you away. And then, oh shit, David Bowie shows up with his goblins and takes the baby away. Yeah. And now she's got to go get the baby. And she has to work her way essentially through this labyrinth.
Right. I think, honestly, if that was on the poster, I would dig it more. Especially if it was like, oh shit, David Bowie shows up with his goblin army and takes the baby. Here's the thing. She doesn't even kind of wish the baby to go away. She is fucking
oh yeah, she's searching for the words. What are those damn words?
Take this fucking baby. And then as soon, and here's the thing, is this is what tells you she's a petulant teenager. As soon as the baby disappears, she's like, sorry, could I have my brother back now? And David Bowie is just like, no, we're not playing this game.
This is how it works.
This is how it works. And there's one line, I think, did Bowie say it at some point? She repeats, it's not fair, a fucking trillion times in this movie. And that's something that I hate when people say.
Yeah.
Because, again, there really is no such thing as fair. And there's a line in the movie, I can't remember exactly, but he basically says, there's no basis, right? Is that what he said? Something about what is fair? There is no basis for fair. I dug that. But did you find out, okay, you're a girl, you were a teenage girl at some point. Were you ever as dramatic as this girl?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
This is a thing, John. Come on.
Yeah,
Where you been
I don't
at?
think the level of drama there was anything that was unrealistic.
It felt it felt like... First of all, it's Jennifer Connelly, right? And who doesn't love Jennifer Connelly? She's a good actress. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's probably 15 or 16 at this point. But, I'm like, fuck, I want her to die in this movie. in the first scene, the scene where she's in the park. You know, I'm watching it and I'm just like, and she's, you know, it starts raining, she gets home, and then her wicked stepmother, who's not a wicked stepmother, by the way, she's a nice lady. She just wants to go out to dinner with the husband. Tells her she has to babysit the baby, and she just throws the biggest fucking fit of all time. So was this a common occurrence, like in your life, for like, say something like that? Like, let's just say your parents, someone tells you, Kyera, you got to throw the garbage out today. You know, and you're in the middle of doing whatever it is you were doing at 15 years old. Was it like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I feel better about this movie now.
See, this soured you to the whole movie, I think.
Well, it was not a good start.
That's what I mean, yeah.
I find it interesting that was the thing that you found to be most out of place. Like, not the goblins that take the baby. But
not
just
out
like,
of place.
You know,
extreme.
or extreme.
Extreme.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that was extreme.
The teenager behavior was over the top.
I've got two teenagers.
Two daughters, right?
Yeah.
So you get it. I have nothing. I have a wife, and we didn't have kids, and I've never had a sister. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I have two older sisters.
I've never had a sister.
I have two older sisters who I didn't have to really, kind of deal with in that age. They're older than me by quite a bit. So I guess maybe not. Okay. All right. So thank you for bringing that home. All right. So teenage girls can be a little bit moody. So she wishes the baby away. David Bowie comes. Now, what is David Bowie? What is his role?
He's a Goblin King.
Why doesn't he look like a fucking goblin?
Because it's David Bowie.
It's David Bowie for crying out loud.
But it's his interpretation.
You can't hide David Bowie.
Goblin King.
But like, okay, so David Bowie plays the Goblin King, right? And if you don't know David Bowie, like we said in the Thing episode with you, if you don't know who Kurt Russell is, fucking I'm gonna hit you on the head with a hammer. We don't have to tell you who David Bowie is, but so the goblins that do come to take the baby and end up, living in the castle in Labyrinth World all look like little toads and little goblin-y monsters and like little boogers and all this stuff. Yeah. And David Bowie looks like David Bowie if he was in Poison.
Right, with this Robert Smith haircut, blonde.
There's a real new romantic vibe going on.
There you go.
In his dress.
So do you think, Kyera, that he's actually a goblin who's a goblin king, or a guy who's king of the goblins?
I have no idea. I've thought about it two different ways.
Okay.
Honestly. I've thought, well, okay, maybe he's just this dude that came in and is like, I'm in charge of you now. But then the more I watched it, I kind of felt, because the whole premise of it was that he's basically in love with Sarah too, which is creepy in its own right because she's ridiculously young. But I always wondered if he wasn't a goblin that was able to disguise himself as a human, almost to come across as like, look how handsome I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does shapeshift. He turns to an owl several times.
Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere that the very beginning, when I was doing my notes, I didn't write it down, but the very beginning when it's the credits with that really 80s credit title sequence with that song that I don't know what song it is he's singing, but where he's the CGI owl. It's one of the first uses of CGI for an animal in a movie ever. And it looks okay. It's not like we get today, but it looks, 1986, it looks okay. So we don't know if he's a goblin or a goblin king. He tells her that you've got 13 hours, right? 13 hours to come find your brother.
Yes.
Or at the end of 13 hours, what happens?
He'll be hit. He owns the baby.
He owns the baby, and I think they inferred that he's going to become a goblin, right? He said, you'll be one of us. Or maybe not become a goblin, but
I think maybe he just wants another person who looks human.
Right.
Hang out with. That's what he wants, yeah.
All right. So first of all, I want to ask you this. Being a Bowie fan, are you normal Bowie, not Labyrinth Bowie? Are you attracted to Bowie?
Oh, I absolutely love him.
Absolutely love Bowie. Labyrinth Bowie, is that look for you?
I could put up with it.
Okay.
Not like as an everyday thing, but hey, whatever floats your boat.
Okay, all right.
Saturday night.
Okay, right. Okay. I'm trying to gauge, Aladdin Sane Bowie, 1983 Let's Dance Bowie, Labyrinth Bowie. You know what I mean?
I'll take them all.
You're good with all those. Okay,
I'll take them all.
All right, because we talked about it, he's known to change all the time. Mm. So, let's see. Bowie tells her, or the Goblin King tells her, you got 13 hours. She starts her quest on the Labyrinth.
Yes.
And the labyrinth appears to be some not so great, it's not such a great labyrinth. It's just kind of a straight line. She's going through, there's some, see, this is one of my problems with this movie is that I love Henson and I love Jim Henson's productions and everything. I felt like some of this was kind of chintzy looking. A lot of the labyrinth design to me was kind of not great looking. Do you agree or no?
Well, they started about a year and a half of production on the animatronics and things of all the Muppets. I think a lot of the budget was on that. If it comes to showing hedges or walls and things like that. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
Like the rocks,
the glitter,
like
it was very sparkly. I mean, that was there to just kind of say, hey, it's magical in here.
Yeah,
I definitely feel like the puppets were what they were trying to get you to focus on, because a lot of that, what you mentioned, the rocks, like in the long corridors,
right?
And then
the painting, the
quite obvious painted background. Yeah.
I don't mind matte paintings, but you're right. The Muppetry stuff, the puppet Muppetry stuff looked great to me. It's the sets kind of looked a little bit, whatever. So she starts on this quest, and we're going to just kind of go through it, not bit by bit, but she starts to meet some characters along the way. The first one she meets is a very polite worm, or a caterpillar.
That's not the first one
she meets. She meets Hoggle outside the labyrinth.
All right, Hoggle outside the labyrinth.
Right. Taking a pee.
Yes, I wanted to bring that up. Right? Thank you, Lloyd, for mentioning it, because I did not write that down. I wrote all my notes, and then I watched the movie, and I didn't write stuff as I was watching. I just took everything down from information. This may be the first time in any kind of Henson production that we've seen a Muppet take a piss.
Right.
Right? I actually had
it's not the only time in the movie.
Was there another time?
There's another peeing scene somewhere deep in the labyrinth with not so much people, but it was more of like a statue sort of thing.
It's a real hard and fast introduction to urination in the Muppet world,
Right.
Like, we've had Muppets since like 1960 something, or actually I think 58 is when
Muppets
Jim Henson started.
have to pee too.
Well, apparently they must have Muppet kidneys all of a sudden.
Right.
Like, I didn't realize this.
They're sponges.
I think you had to wait till the 7th Star Trek film before you got to see someone urinating.
Did we even get there with Star Trek?
Yeah.
Okay.
With Geordi, I think.
Oh, did Geordi pee in?
No, it wasn't Geordi. It wasn't. I think Geordi dealt with it. It was what's his name? The guy who is the original dude to fly into space.
James Cromwell.
Jamie Cromwell.
You're right. You're right. Zephyrin Cochran.
Cochran.
You're right. He did take a leak because he was a drunk. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good call back to Star Trek: The First Contact.
But yeah, I mean that's I think that maybe held the record. But other than that, at least for puppets, I think that probably holds the puppet record for.
I wonder if that scene was met with any kind of like shock in 1986, because.
Maybe.
I was kind of surprised by it myself, but so Hoggle is a terrible character, by the way. He is like, what is Hoggle? He's not a goblin. Is he a dwarf? What is he?
Well, there seems to be some debate. I've never kind of assumed what he was. To me, he was just Hoggle.
Right.
But I know that at one point when Jareth is addressing him, he refers to him as a dwarf.
He does. And he's a small character.
He has lots of names for Hoggle, right?
Yeah.
Well, they call him Hogwarts.
They even call him Hogwarts,
several times, which I wonder if maybe that was a inspiration for J.K. Rowling or whoever she supposedly ripped all that stuff off from.
That actually came, I just saw something today about it, that the name Hoggle came from, there's some famous like old British book that has the word Hogwarts in it or something.
Oh, okay. All right. She meets Hoggle. He's a coward, I guess. That's what he says several times. And it turns out, spoiler alert, that he's working for Jareth. I guess he's like Jareth's mole. He's supposed to guide her away, right? Away from the labyrinth? Away from the castle, because he doesn't want her to get there.
Right. Yeah.
So Hoggle is one of the characters she meets. She ends up getting into the labyrinth, further into the labyrinth, and she starts meeting more characters. Some of the ones that I think the ones that I thought were the coolest in the whole movie by far, what were they called? The Helping Hands?
Oh, yeah.
Well, again,
she falls down.
When she falls into a pit. I don't know if you remember this, Chris. And it's creepy, first of all, because it's just a bunch of hands sticking out of this tunnel, this hole she falls into. And they catch her, and they talk to her. And the way they talk is these puppeteers, these amazing, Henson guys, two of them put their hands here. Those are eyes. One of them puts a mouth down and does this, which you can't see because this is a podcast and not video. So I'm basically
every hand takes a different portion.
Every
of
hand
the face.
takes a different portion of the face, and I thought that was incredible.
There's so many different hands and different faces and different ways of putting them together. It's pretty amazing.
It was very good. It actually reminded me of. Again, it's like a form of puppetry without using the puppets at all. And these guys, the cast that he uses here, I mean, Jim Henson does some of the stuff. Brian Henson, his son, does some of the puppetry, voices Hoggle. Kevin Clash, who is the puppeteer and voice for Elmo, is one of the guys who did a lot of the puppeteering in this. Mm-hmm. And then you have like Dave Goelz, who did, I think, Kermit for a long time. So he's got all of his usual guys coming in and pitching in with this thing. So
And Hoggle took five puppeteers,
5 puppeteers,
five different people working in sync to get all that, and including I forget the lady's name, but she's a small person who is actually Hoggle character inside.
Kenny Baker, R2D2, is also somewhere in here. I don't know what he played, but he's also a character in this. So, out of all the people, all the people or creatures that she meets along the way, do you have a personal favorite? I have a personal favorite, easily.
I love Sir Didymus.
Sir Didymus is cool. Not my favorite. I was a big fan of Ludo.
That's my son's favorite.
I'm a big Ludo fan, and Didymus is second with his dog Ambrosius.
Ambrosius, yeah. So further along, she goes into the labyrinth, and the idea of the story is she's meeting friends as she goes along the way. They never really said that she didn't. I think a large part of this is that she's gaining friends, but they didn't really incline you that she had no friends prior, right?
Well, I mean, I think I felt like it was almost implied with the fact that she was just reciting a play in a giant shirt dress thing in a park by herself with her dog.
Yeah. Did you ever do anything like that when you were a kid?
Oh, absolutely not.
No. Okay. So I love the fact that I'm able to gauge this girl's journey as like a 15-year-old based against yours. So you were ultra dramatic as she was.
Yes.
But you had friends, so you weren't standing in a park like...
I had like 2 friends.
2 friends is more than no friends, though.
It's true.
Okay. Chris, were you ever in a park?
So was I ever so dramatic that I acted out in a park?
Yes.
Not that I can recall.
Not that you recall.
See, that's surprising to me.
I was in a musical in middle school, but...
what were you in?
I think it was called the Great All-American Disaster Musical. It was an actual musical. It was produced in like late 70s. Certainly not Broadway, off-Broadway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember who you played?
No. I remember very little about it. It's like Swiss cheese up here. I have like entire years that I don't remember anymore. But yeah, I don't know if it was like a subconscious manifestation because like I really hate musicals.
Were you like a tree just in the background?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, who knows?
You really hate musicals, really?
Yeah, I just don't. I can't get into them.
And not even a 1.
I'm not doubting their quality.
I don't like musicals either, but I guess what I'm saying is like everybody has that one. Like,
no,
I like Grease a lot. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think I can sit through one full entire musical. I don't think I could, or I have in some time.
You sat through Across the Universe, but that was mostly because I convinced you to watch the whole thing because Salma Hayek was at the end as a nurse.
Yeah, I'll watch a musical for Salma Hayek.
Of course, you'll get through like 2 hours and 12 minutes just to get to that 2-minute scene.
My mom used to put them on when I don't know, never for me. Like anytime that you have something where it's like it takes me completely out of a film. Where it's
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm actually not a musical fan either. I'm sure I've seen 1 or 2 that I think is okay. The Grease thing wasn't mine. I'm not a fan of Grease, but that's one I can think of. A lot of people will say I don't like music. I like Grease. You know what I mean?
Like through it
because it was so powerful.
But no matter how like palatable it is, it'll come down to be something like if you offer me a beer. Like, would you like a beer? Would I like a beer? And then it goes, well, I would love to have a beer. It's like, come on. Like, no one does that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Would you consider Labyrinth a musical?
No, I never included it in a musical. It's a song that has music in it, but I always figured that they just kind of work that in because you have David Bowie.
And
it's a missed opportunity.
You could call it a musical fantasy.
I expected a lot more music than what I got.
I think it's really a fantasy film with musical numbers.
This sort of brings up a point I want to make is what you could tell were direct influences. In a lot of these, you can actually see in her room as books laid out in her.
One of them is actually very. I don't know if you. Well, go ahead and if you don't bring it up, I'll bring it up.
Yeah. So I've got here The Wizard of Oz, and then Maurice Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are, but even more than that, and I can't remember the name now.
There was another Sendak book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another one about a baby stolen by goblins.
Yeah, I have that here somewhere.
And then obviously Monty Python.
Outside Over There by Maurice
Outside
Sendak,
Over There, that's it.
Did you read the whole story about what happened with that?
No.
All right, so there's a book in her room called Outside Over There by Maurice Sendak, who wrote Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
And it concerns, the story is about a baby that's kidnapped by a goblin and a little girl that has to go find the baby. Maurice Sendak threatened legal action against this movie.
That's right, I did read that.
Jim Henson, or whatever company produced this movie, or Jim Henson, because he's the producer, and George Lucas produced this as well. At the very end in the credits, had to put a little credit that said, Jim Henson acknowledges his debt to the works of Maurice Sendak.
Yep.
And that's the only way they would let it happen.
And that's how they did it.
So this movie is possibly kind of ripped off from another story. So if you're out there and you're
which isn't unusual,
and they managed to throw a little Easter egg in there and throw the book into
you
got the book in there.
You got to wonder if they
Both
threw
books.
the book in there on purpose, like, you know, okay, let's put it there, like after he had said, because it was before the movie went into production. The script was written, and Sendak somehow gotten a hold of it and said, no, you know what I mean? This is bullshit. So when they're filming it, maybe they said, okay, we have to acknowledge it in the credits, and why don't we acknowledge it in here as well?
And I guess you could say the same thing about the Escher painting.
Yeah, that
the
ending,
whole ending of the movie, you know, has a whole Escher.
Super Escher, yeah.
And it's incredible how they did that, actually.
That was a cool scene, yeah.
Everybody was in her room at some point. Like, even Hoggle and Ludo and all of them, if you look in the scenes in her room, there's a statue of Jareth on her desk. There's even pictures of David Bowie in her room as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was not paying that hard of attention.
It's pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff in there. Alice in Wonderland, did I mention that?
You did not, but I think that book was sitting there too. Yeah.
So, and a lot of those you could call musical, or at least music influenced.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Trevor Jones did the actual score.
Yeah.
He did the Dark Crystal with Henson. He's done a million movies, but I just wrote down a couple. He did Arachnophobia, which, by the way, is a fucking great movie, which doesn't get enough play. Did you like Arachnophobia?
I did. I remember seeing that in the theaters.
Yeah, me too. It was a creepy,
very creepy.
Have you ever seen it?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Do you like spiders or hate spiders?
I don't mind them.
Okay. If you're a hate spiders person, you might not ever want to see Arachnophobia because it seems very realistic in terms of like this could happen. There's a scene, I haven't seen it in years. There's a scene where they're coming out of a sink.
Yeah.
And I don't like spiders, and I sometimes think about that around sinks. So.
That's creepy. Anything coming out of a sink is creepy.
The spider in particular. He did From Hell too, the kind of not great Johnny Depp movie based on the Alan Moore book, which is fucking incredible. But it's not a terrible movie. It's just and I don't want to be that guy that says the book's better. The book's better on that one. So there are 6 tracks for the soundtrack that Trevor Jones did orchestrally, and 5 original David Bowie songs. The song titles are Underground, which I think is the weird one that's playing over the beginning credits.
Yeah.
Magic Dance, which is the only good one.
The baby, I love that song.
That's that I will say happens in the first. So as she's progressing through the labyrinth, we get a scene of a very bored.
I think
bored
it's
David Bowie.
The first dialogue in there.
Yes,
he's like, "You remind me of the babe. What babe? The babe with the power."
Bowie is sitting there bored. He's looking at the weird clock and. What is he going to do with this baby? And he breaks into song and dance. I got excited at this point because that song was really good and it was really Bowie. You know, he starts doing like the little Bowie vocal runs and I'm like, okay, this is it. And I got to be honest, I think that was all we really got.
Oh, that was by far the best song.
It was by far the only good song I thought in reality, or at least it was the only one that they really kind of like featured in the movie where it's like him kind of really getting into it. I will admit towards the end, because I watched this after like a 12-hour day at work, I fell asleep for about 15 minutes. So if there was another song, I apologize. Did he do another song like in the movie later?
Not as him, but him singing with the little fire guys.
Okay.
That keep alternating their heads. That was David Bowie singing.
I was in and out during that part. So basically from that part to the part where she wakes up, or not wakes up, but ends up in the
masquerade
ball. So here's the thing. So the little head guys, I saw bits of that, and I started going out there, and I realized that there was a song, and then she wakes up in the I woke up, sorry, in the scene with the bog of eternal stench.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, there's just some straight up rectums in that lake, right?
No, there is for sure.
That was gross, right? Am I wrong?
Prince Charles, because they premiered that maybe 6 months or so after the U.S. premiere. In the UK.
Okay.
And Prince Charles came up to them after and said that he loved that scene.
Really?
Yeah. Charles and Diana saw that.
Did you feel that those were, I mean, I don't mean to be gross, but just assholes there?
Well, that's what it's meant to look like.
Me.
Yeah.
But apparently the sounds, there was no like smell when they were filming it, but apparently a lot of the sounds that you hear in the movie was actually recorded from the water or whatever they were using being pumped through.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the listeners out there, they end up at the Bog of Eternal Stench, which is threatened a couple times throughout the course of the movie. And it's basically just this big toilet water bog.
Yeah, it's nasty.
That makes a lot of farting sounds. And there's a couple of what look like prolapsed anuses in the water that actually like expand. It's weird.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I was a little weird. That and the pissing scene this movie's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I kind of was out a little bit there, so I must have missed Bowie singing that song. And then I totally missed the masquerade scene. I went out again, and then I was good for the rest. So I think I missed
about
about 15
minutes. That's not one of my favorite
minutes.
parts of the movie, anyway.
You do get a total feeling that part of the reason he's doing this is because
it's creepy.
He wants to he wants the boner, and so he's like probably a 9,000-year-old goblin king, and she's a 15-year-old girl. When you were a 15-year-old girl, if a 9,000-year-old David Bowie, I'll be polite, I'll say, was interested in you, how would you feel about that?
Well, I mean, if you look like Jareth, I'd probably be fine with it.
Okay.
You're talking to somebody that's just like, oh, hey, do you know who I love today? I love David Coverdale. Dude's old as shit.
Okay. All right, that's cool.
And not to mention, well, David Bowie was first billing. Jennifer Connelly was second. You know who was third?
Brian Henson, maybe?
No. Bowie's Trouser Goblin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had heard a lot of this movie, people talking about David Bowie's package.
Yeah.
So I made it a point, especially in the magic dance scene, when he's wearing those kind of like frilly piratey shirt, and he's got the kind of like he's wearing like almost like leotard pants.
Tunic,
But yeah, his knob is just like for a Jim Henson movie. There's a lot of David Bowie's.
There are some
dick.
scenes of just him from the waist down.
Yeah.
And the one with Hoggle right there, like.
It's probably one of the most legendary, like, cinematic bulges.
There's two.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of the ones I could think of personally, and you'd have to refer back to a very early episode of Pint and Comics when me and Sir John watched Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But Stephen Collins, who played Deckard,
yes,
those really terrible costumes. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Lloyd, that they wore in the motion picture. So in Star Trek 2, they got the great maroon command ones, with the turn down and. They look like they're in the Navy. In Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they look like they're in the fucking disco.
Yeah, it's like a lot of puffy stuff.
A lot of puffy stuff, very tight, like kind of spandex. And Stephen Collins played the Commodore Decker, Commander Decker on the Enterprise, and his dick is in every scene of that movie. It's just his bulge is just hanging there in every scene in that movie. And David Bowie's 5 years later or whatever is right there again. So
right there. You cannot miss it.
Got to give it to Bowie for the superior bulge, though.
Bowie has a better bulge, and honestly,
if anything, better known than Decker's.
Yeah, and honestly, we got to be good about that because Stephen Collins.
He's not doing so well.
He's not doing so well. No, he was. I don't know if you know this or not. Stephen Collins, like about 5 years ago, they found out he was I don't know if was a pedophile or he's a pedophile, but he got caught with all this like kiddie porn and shit.
No. I think what happened was he was involved in some. Court hearing, and he was seeing years before in his marriage or seeing a marriage counselor, and so he came out and said like he had urges or
is that what it was?
Looked at it, and then it got leaked out basically.
Yeah,
he had to be using.
I thought there was a whole thing though with a girl though.
Could have been.
I think there might have been after.
I felt that there was. I think that was the catalyst for it, but I felt that something else came out afterwards.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, and he was the dad on
Seventh
Heaven. So I mean, he played like a pastor. Again, I know these people are actors, but
and was really funny in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia too.
He was their real dad.
Real dad. Yeah.
He played Bruce, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He played Dennis. If you're a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he played Dennis and Dee's real father. When you find out that Frank is not the real father, right? Stephen Collins, and he disappeared from that show. He actually made like one appearance a couple years later again. When they tried to get all of his money, and then they just wrote that character. They wrote that character totally off because what are you going to do with that?
When their mother died.
When the mother died, right? Yeah. I think one of the cooler effects in this movie, the card guys, the door guys,
with
the head on the top.
Yeah, we should talk about some of the special effects and visual trickery that made the movie, kind of special. What was your favorite overall effect or puppet in the entire movie, Kyera?
I have no idea.
No? Anything in particular though that you like more than other things? Like, okay, this is really cool.
I can't think of the guy's name, but he had the bird thing
on his head. Oh, that guy was so good. The wise man with the bird on the top of his head.
The turkey on his head.
Yeah, exactly.
And the turkey said something, I'm tired of being your hat.
Right, that guy, the turkey head was really, I think, the smart one, and the guy was...
That was odd. It was cool,
that was very unique. What else was cool? You
know what I loved? It wasn't a puppet effect, but it was still an effect, was that... So when they're in the labyrinth in the lower part, and Jareth confronts Hoggle about helping her, and he decides, I guess, he's going to, either kill them or scare them. He throws He has that little mirror ball that he keeps on.
Do you want to know about those balls?
Yeah, what's that ball?
Right. There's another performer doing all those balls.
I assumed it wasn't him.
And he was always standing right behind him, and everything he was doing was blind. So it was just David Bowie standing there with a bit of a cape behind him.
And then arm out
and
in front
this other performer just ducking down behind Bowie with his arms out front doing all this stuff with the balls. Yeah, it's amazing.
Matter of fact, Tony, again, who I mentioned, loves this movie. owns like one or two of those things. He told me, he goes, you know the ball from Labyrinth? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He's like, well, I have one of them. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you on that. But cool.
Whoever that, I forget the guy's name, but he was amazing at that stuff. And the fact that he was just doing it all blind and with his arm outstretched and, with a dude in front of him.
So he throws that ball.
Yeah.
And it becomes that cleaner, I think they called it.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Because it looks like this giant drill.
Yeah.
With a bunch of little drills and like blades and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's coming down that round hallway and they're running away from it.
And as it goes by.
As it goes by, it's just two like goblins riding a bicycle.
Yeah, right.
That like, one of them is riding it and the other one's turning the crank. I thought that scene was great. And the other thing I thought was really great was at the end of the movie, and I'd woken up at this point, the little puppet that was like a cannon. He was like a cannon with a machine gun as well.
What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, this wasn't a dream. This was real. At the
sure
end,
you were awake.
Okay.
At the end when they're almost
is
into
this
the
when
castle.
the door comes together and forms that big giant mech thing?
Well, they are almost at the castle, and they open up like Ludo opens that tiny house up. And they go into it.
Yeah.
And there's a little cannon head thing that's actually shooting at them.
I can't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Completely over my head.
I feel like I know this happened.
No, I'm sure it happened.
Okay.
I just,
well, with you, I'm not weirded out by it, but with her being a big Labyrinth fan, I'm a little nervous.
Now you're questioning yourself.
I'm honestly questioning myself because I will admit I launched off a couple times during this one. So, but I know that happened.
Yeah.
Because as a matter of fact, they crushed it.
Okay.
That's how they destroyed it. Was I don't know if they threw a rock, but it got crushed, and that's how they get into the castle at the end.
All
so
right.
she gets through the labyrinth, right, with the help of her friends.
Yes.
And we get to the castle. This is the point where we end up directly with the Escher stairs, correct? Is that what happens first, or?
I think so. Now I can't remember, and I just watched it today.
Yeah, the Escher stairs.
Wait. You watched it today, and you don't remember the cannon head guy?
I haven't. I told you beforehand that my memory and just.
I'm okay with it. Yeah. I'm actually just questioning myself now, so I'm going to look it up when we're done with the show, and because I really remember that.
To be honest, this is the worst part of the movie. Everything from here to the end, I think it's really not that good.
Yeah, by the end of the movie, I'm tracked. Everything that comes before
it's
that
just inside
is
the labyrinth.
Part.
It's all the in the labyrinth stuff is what's worth watching.
So you check out basically when they get to the castle.
Yeah, at that point, I'm like, okay, the movie's over.
Are you disappointed that she ends up? I mean, and again, spoiler alert, you're listening to this show. We've been talking spoilers the whole time. Are you disappointed that she defeats him in the end? Like, were you rooting for Bowie to take that kid as a goblin?
Oh, absolutely.
You were really. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. That's cool.
Sometimes I just like to play devil's advocate, and part of me is like, okay, like I know that this is how the movie's gonna end, but I would have, me personally, I would have preferred it if it was not a happy ending.
Okay. All right. Lloyd, do you feel the same way, Lloyd?
Yeah, I'd love to see the alternate ending.
Jesus, that's dark.
Well, what if he just became kind of like a goblin prince, and he just kind of hung out with the goblins and hung out with his dad, David Bowie, and danced and all that?
That sounds pretty cool.
I guess I'd be okay with that idea if it wasn't for her parents. Like, if it was just her, if this bitchy fucking 15-year-old was like somehow legally in charge of this kid, then you know what? Go with the goblin. You're better off.
This is what you get, bitch.
Yeah. But, the poor father, who seemed like a pretty stand-up guy, and the mother, who wasn't that bad, now they're going to wonder what happened to their baby. You've enacted a nightmare scenario in this movie now. So the movie ends with him, like, picture this now, instead of the happy ending where...
It ends with the missing persons report.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So the way Labyrinth ends...
Right, just a kid on a milk bottle.
The real way it ends is she defeats him by uttering the line, right? You have no power over me, from the play, which you said is kind of like the whole movie enacting itself. She defeats him. She goes back to her home. She has the kid with her, and then all of the her friends that she met show up in her room, and they do the Return of the King thing where they jump on a bed for fucking 40 minutes, and everybody's fucking super happy, and the movie ends. And Bowie, as a snow owl, does spy on her a little bit, so you're thinking he's still out there somewhere. You're saying that you'd rather the movie end where she loses, and let's just say, like, his like goblin guard slit her throat. She's dead in Goblin World. The baby is now on that side forever, and the very last scene of the movie is the mother and father just like destroyed because they're like 5-month-old baby, or maybe I don't know.
Wow, you were really taking this to an extreme level.
Yeah.
Well, but she said that though.
And no one said anything about a throat slitting, though.
Well,
I mean, you went.
Yeah, I don't think he would murder her.
You think he would have kept her?
I think he would have kept her too. I definitely don't think anybody would have been murdered.
Do you think that's worse though? If he kept her as like I feel gross saying this, but like as this kind of like
concubine.
Yeah. This movie could have had a much darker ending.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those puppets though, I mean, awful cute.
Yeah. Well,
it did have a dark ending for Jim Henson. Well, right? He went into a very deep depression after this.
He did. Yeah, I read this. This movie kind of and this is like 3 years before he died.
Right.
He died in 1990. This came out in 86, middle of 86, and he died early 1990. So I was reading this movie. Okay, so let's get into some box office stuff real quick. This movie was made for $26 million.
25 something, yeah.
Right. So you're figuring Jim Henson, Muppet stuff. Up until that point, the Muppet movie was a hit. Great Muppet Caper. I don't know if Muppets Take Manhattan was a hit because that movie kind of sucked. But made $12 million. Gross.
12.9.
So this movie was a failure. It made half of what it cost. This was a George Lucas production. So he's expecting. This and Howard the Duck came out in the same year, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a list of the top 10 movies that year.
Okay.
If you want to get to it after.
Well, we're going to talk about the top movies of that weekend at the box office, too.
All right.
And see if you guys maybe are familiar with some of these movies as well. But this movie really kind of set him off he never directed another movie after this. Yeah, he was extremely disappointed and depressed about this.
It got panned by Siskel and Ebert and lots of critics.
Yeah, I don't look at Rotten Tomatoes, but I did read that it's severely mixed.
I think it was Siskel that said, terrible story, and the worst part was the gimmick of the baby and the goblins. And he's like, I don't know how you could do that.
Well, I guess it could have been much worse if it was the ending that Kyera has envisioned.
Yeah.
So if it had, like, I'm picturing now, like, Labyrinth on, like, Blu-ray coming out in 2 years with the unknown Jim Henson, really, really shitty version where Jennifer Connelly becomes the concubine and all that stuff happens. So let's go real quick. This movie came out, again, we said earlier, on June 27th of 1986. So when we do the Pint Movie Invitational, if it's made prior or after 1982, we could do this. BoxOfficeMojo.com. And we could take the 10 movies that were out that weekend, top 10. So it kind of like a little Wayback Machine, and you can go, hey, I remember that movie. I love that. So week ending of June 29th, which would be the Sunday of 1986, the number one movie at the box office, it was, and this is kind of topical right now, because season 2 of the television show that's continuing this saga comes out on April 24th, and I couldn't be any more excited. The Karate Kid Part 2. Okay? I don't know if you guys saw Cobra Kai. I don't know if you're Karate Kid fans at all.
Haven't.
Cobra Kai was my pick for favorite show.
Oh, that was such a good show.
It is so fucking good. So Karate Kid Part 2 came out. It was out for 2 weeks at that point. It was number one at the box office, $8.9 million, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, the Rodney Dangerfield classic, Back to School.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? What's the name of the dive in that one? Do you remember? Either one of you guys remember?
Oh. Name of the what?
The dive.
The dive that he does.
I'm going to let you stew on that while I move on. Keep thinking of it. Back to School was out for 3 weeks at that point. It made $6.8 million. Number 3, I had to look this up because I'd forgotten what this was. $6 million, out for 2 weeks, Legal Eagles. It was a Robert Redford movie.
Yeah.
With
was it Holly Hunter?
No.
It was someone like that.
Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger
and Daryl Hannah. And I've never seen that, and I never will. Number 4, this is a great movie that I haven't seen in a long time, but it's really funny. It opened the same week as Labyrinth. It made $5.2 million, so it came out that week. Ruthless People. You ever see Ruthless People? Oh.
Danny DeVito.
Right, Bette Midler, Judge Reinhold, Bill Pullman. It's Danny DeVito and Bette Midler are a married couple. Danny DeVito is really rich, and she is his longtime wife who he fucking hates to no extreme. And he hires these really inept hitmen, a hitman and hitwoman, to have her killed. Kidnap her and kill her. And they kidnap her, but they can't kill her, and she starts manipulating them, and it's really fucking funny.
Dark comedy.
Super dark comedy. Number 5 that week, $5.2 million that also opened the same week, Running Scared, which is Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. It was like a cop show.
Yep.
Cop movie. Never saw that. Number 6, everybody on Earth's seen this, and now as soon as I say that, you're going to say you've never seen it. It had been out for 7 weeks, $5.0 million, Top Gun?
I've never watched it.
Okay, see?
Number 1 movie that year.
Was it the number 1 movie of the year? Number 7, everybody's seen this. Just say you've seen it.
You know you've seen this one.
It had been out for 3 weeks. It made $4.3 million. It's a John Hughes movie. Okay, are you a John Hughes fan?
I've seen some.
Okay. It takes place in Chicago. That's kind of a joke because they all do. Shermer, Illinois, I think is the name of the city, the made-up city he used. It's about a kid that doesn't go to school one day. He takes the day off.
Oh.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All right, you've seen that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Number 7, opening at $3.5 million was Labyrinth. Number 9, a complete mystery to me. and I don't think I looked it up. I meant to look it up. It opened at $1.9 million. I've never heard of this movie ever in my life. American Anthem.
That's the gymnastics movie.
Is it a gymnastics movie? You're telling me.
Yeah, with I don't who are the gym guys?
Oh, Mitch.
Mitch Gaylord.
Mitch Gaylord.
Yeah, I think that's a movie with Mitch Gaylord.
Oh, I'm almost kind of thinking I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
because there was also Gymkata, which was that gymnastics karate movie that really fucking.
No, this is maybe like a drama.
You've seen that though, haven't you? American Anthem.
I've never even heard of it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Chris? Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, all right. I
stumped me on that one.
Yeah. And then number 10, $1.2 million, 6 weeks out. Crime is the disease. He's the cure.
I'm the cure.
Cobra?
Oh, yeah. Are you a fan? Are you a fan?
Wow, she's pointing at him over here.
That's really funny that you said that.
So
that was almost his pick. That's what I'm going to say.
No, a little bit of backstory on Cobra. It was like 11:30 at night, maybe 2 or 3 nights ago. I'll pull up the text message so you guys can understand the ringer that I put him through, because I randomly thought of this movie but didn't know it was this movie, and I wanted to watch it.
I was able to guess it with a very minimal amount of information, including some incorrect information that I was given, that I had to kind of be like, no, I don't think she's remembering that.
Okay.
Right?
So it started with, I just randomly remembered that you showed me a movie one time and I wanted to watch it. Here's the description. There's a dude and a girl and they're on the run or something, and there's a big fight scene in a warehouse. I think some guns. I think it's from the 80s. It's a movie you own.
Oh my God.
And you got it?
Wait, it gets better.
Oh, okay.
He had no idea what I was talking about, and he goes, could be the Terminator. As you know,
we talked about this.
I've never seen any of the Terminator films. Right. I've only been on the ride, and you said that doesn't count.
No, that certainly does not count. Chris, that does not count, right?
No.
That she's saying that she's seen a Terminator movie by being on a ride.
No, it does not
at all.
No.
So this is where we get into it, and I'm like, but like a dude, exactly. I can see the people in my head. I could see the scene, but not the people. But the dude and the girl were hiding out from bad people for some reason, and like the biggest part of the movie is some warehouse type shootout fist fight scene. There wasn't one. So Christopher asked me, he goes, who was chasing them? Bad guys? I think they were Americans. Like, it wasn't foreign people or robots. And the good guy swung on a chain to beat up the main bad guy in the warehouse place. The part where he gets it is, I go, maybe the dude is an ex-cop or something? I remember a scene where he was reading the newspaper.
You got that from that.
He goes,
you're leaving out here I'm asking short individual questions.
No, the next question comes, did he have a cool car? Maybe. Was the girl a blonde? Maybe. He goes, I think it's Cobra, Sylvester Stallone and Bridget Nielsen.
Oh my God.
Was she a blonde in that or a redhead?
She was blonde.
Was she blonde? Okay.
Pretty sure.
That's where he got it. He sent me a link and I go, no, I don't think that's it. Sent me a link. It was the freaking movie.
I thought was actually a pretty good response after she sent me the thing back. You know, a guy and a girl, and they're running from somebody, and it was, you know, in a warehouse. And I was like, you've literally just described the plot of 50% of the action films made in the 1980s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My kids have this little electronic toy. It's called 20 Questions. It just gives you a question.
20 questions.
You answer it, and then at the end of those answers, it gives you the answer.
I've played that. It's spooky.
Almost like 99% of the time, it gives you the right answer.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds like that's what you did.
It's witchcraft.
Well, I know, it was just, I just had a feeling. The newspaper thing that she mentioned, that kind of set it off, because I remember the scene. But I also mentioned in there, I was like, initially, when she first told me that, I said, it sounds like either Terminator or Cobra. And I was like, but Cobra doesn't end. She mentioned a cabin. And I was like, Cobra doesn't end in a warehouse. It ends like out on the street. And I was trying to mention, what's his name, who plays the Ripper with the crazy knife.
Right, Brian, the guy from the X-Files.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but he's a character actor. He's been in a million things.
Excellent actor.
Scary
and
looking
they usually just have him, you know, just go. And like,
have you ever seen The Orville?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember the Orville episode where the doctor and Isaac crash landed on the planet?
Yeah.
The guy that kidnaps the doctor.
Yeah.
Is Brian, whatever this guy's name is.
Right. Yeah.
He's been a character actor for many years in Hollywood. See, that's the thing is, if I were, you did a good job. You guys have a connection, obviously. Because if I had to think of Cobra, I guess I would go with the cult angle, right? Because weren't they a cult? Remember there was the whole, like, weren't they slamming, like, knives together or something? Was that Cobra?
No, that was like...
See, here we go again.
Yeah.
He's going to guess another one.
The cult.
Wasn't the bad guys in Cobra,
They were like a, I don't know if I necessarily call it like a cult, but they were like a gang.
A gang, like a murder clan of some sort.
Like a murder gang.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right.
Well, it was a crazy, the female evil lead woman was also a police officer.
Oh, see, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. That's how they kept getting all the info and how they were able to avoid the police.
I'm gonna have to rewatch Cobra. I have not seen it in a long time.
Cobra is one of those movies that Cobra is basically Stallone's Commando. Where it's one of those movies that are beloved and are great action movies, but they're not particularly great movies, not particularly realistic.
See, I love Commando.
A lot of people do, but it's kind of frankly, it's kind of a cheese stick movie, and so is Cobra. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Some of the greatest films or most enjoyable to watch films are just that,
So did you watch Cobra after all this?
I haven't had a chance to, no, but I have seen it. It was just the most aggravating thing because I'm laying in bed at 11:30 and I'm just seeing like fuzzy flashes of a movie, and I was like, oh, I want to watch that, and everything I thought it wasn't.
Okay, and yet he got the answer.
As long as Chris got the answer, that's all that matters, and that's pretty impressive. So, because I would never have gotten that, I would have thought maybe he had a match sticking out of his mouth or. So that was very good. You guys did a very good job of figuring that out.
Thank you, sir.
I'm very impressed by that. Lloyd, what were, you said it before. Why don't we do real quick the top 10 movies of 1986, just to get an idea. And I'm betting this is top 10 grossing movies, right?
Yeah.
So Labyrinth is just not going to be in here. Yeah.
No.
It's not a chance, no?
Can I, instead of doing this real quick, can I guess? Can I give you a guess as to what I think? Top Gun obviously was number one.
Number one, Top Gun.
I'm going to just say
176 million.
I'm going to say 1986, big movies for 86. No.
You already know at least a couple of them because you mentioned them already.
Okay. Rocky 4 was 85. I would say that would probably be it. Oh, God. I'm trying to think of anything.
You're not going to remember number 2.
No.
And you're going to be surprised.
All right. Go ahead and tell me. I don't want to guess anymore. I didn't even start.
That's not a knife.
Crocodile Dundee.
Crocodile Dundee. Yeah,
wow.
Number 2. Very close to Top Gun, 174.8. 3, a really good war movie, Platoon.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites.
138.5 million.
One of my favorites. That is a fucking great movie.
Number 4, which you mentioned, Karate Kid Part 2, 115 million. 5, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
Oh, okay.
The Whales.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Originally supposed to be a Star Trek vehicle with Eddie Murphy.
Really?
Eddie Murphy was supposed to star in Star Trek 4 as the character... I can't remember the actress's name, but the woman that helps them.
Yeah.
It was originally supposed to be Eddie Murphy, and that's kind of why the script is funnier.
Okay.
And he was at that time a huge star, and he didn't want to, he didn't want to be a part of a Star Trek movie. He wanted to do shit like The Golden Child, which, probably came out that year and it's probably on that list maybe.
We'll get to it.
Okay. All right.
All right. So where were we? Star Trek 4, 109.7 million. Number 6, Back to School.
Ah, okay.
Rodney Dangerfield. So what was the name of this dive?
The Triple Lindy.
That is it.
Yeah.
The Triple Lindy.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I can't believe I forgot that.
He gets up there and he's doing the farts with his arm and.
All right, number 7, one of the best movies of all time. I think was in your top 5 all-time horror movies. Aliens.
I was going to guess Aliens.
Aliens was 86.
I was going to guess that.
You've seen Alien and Aliens?
No.
I fell asleep.
Oh,
how
rough.
Yeah. How does that happen?
Yeah.
I was tired.
I could almost see it in Alien because it is a slower movie.
Yeah.
But it's so worth watching staying up. Chris,
right.
you have to get her to go watch these 2 movies.
You got
still working on Terminator 2, man.
Has she seen Terminator 1 yet?
No. To me, Terminator 2 is more important.
Really?
I fell asleep in Terminator 2 at the movie theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Not indicative of quality. You were sleepy, right?
You know me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that was 30 years ago.
Right, I was still a kid.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So Back to School was 91.2 million. Aliens was 86. Number 8.
It was 86 million for the year.
Yes.
That's so crazy that was enough to be in the top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
When a big weekend right now is like $200 million.
That's
I'm
right.
sure
For
this
a
is
weekend.
adjusted for inflation as well, too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it's still lower than
it's
it should
still,
be.
Yeah, it's still crazy.
It's crazy. Number 8, you already mentioned it, The Golden Child. 79.8 million.
Brother Numsy, I want the knife.
Number 9, Coming to America. They're going to redo that, right?
Wow, 2 Eddie Murphys in there.
That can't. Coming to America was 88.
No. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay, yeah. They're making part 2.
Part 2.
They're actually making a sequel to the original. Yep. They're not rebooting it. They're going to bring Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy back.
That's great.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I hope.
Let your soul glow.
Number 9, again, we mentioned this, Ruthless People.
Good movie.
71.6. And number 10, we also mentioned Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 70 million.
I can't believe Ferris Bueller's Day Off was lower than Ruthless People.
I can't.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I'm surprised that Ruthless People is on the list.
I can't believe Back to School's above Aliens.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, 86 was a weird fucking year for movies.
Yeah.
All right, so we pretty much talked about Labyrinth, and then we went into Cobra and
one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing quick. Top Gun, $15 million budget.
Was Top Gun made on $15 million?
$15 million. You got F-14s, F-15s, whatever they are.
And it was made in cooperation with the Navy. I mean, that movie was basically
$10 million less than Labyrinth.
That movie was basically a kind of like a recruiting poster for the Navy at the time. You know what I mean? Like, I was a kid when Top Gun came out, like probably 10 years old, but you can't tell me a lot of 18-year-olds didn't go see Top Gun.
Oh, and then just went and immediately joined the service.
And joined the service, based on the fact that, they could play volleyball with Val Kilmer or whatever the fuck's going on.
That and then, moved by Kenny Loggins,
Danger Zone.
Yeah.
Now, Chris is in a bunch of bands. Chris is a professional musician. Do you ever play Danger Zone, like when you're warming up? Do you guys ever?
No, not a Loggins fan, and I often get looked at weird, like I'm some sort of traitor or a terrorist or like.
Because you don't like Loggins?
I don't like Top Gun.
Oh, okay. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan either. I like it. It has a place in my life, but it's nothing I ever revisit.
I have friends that almost all my friends have this reverence for this film, and I just don't have it.
I agree with you.
I don't either.
And we recently did an episode.
Like if I were to pick a top off of that top 10 list, without a doubt, it's Aliens.
Oh, Aliens! All day long.
Sure.
Yeah.
All day long. We recently did an episode of the movie Invitational with our friend Larry Dwyer from Connecticut Cult Classics.
Oh, yes.
And we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and how it is the most subversively gay horror movie of all time. That movie, have you seen it recently?
Not recently.
Guys,
no.
seriously.
Dream Warriors is the last one I think I remember watching.
Watch Elm Street 2.
You got to watch that again.
Watch Elm Street 2. As a matter of fact, if you're able to go, it's April 20th. It's his next showing is number 1 and number 2. If you can't, watch it at home. Mm-hmm. You'll be amazed. Top Gun is also
for sure.
a very subversively gay movie.
Oh, yeah.
That volleyball scene with the Kenny Loggins song "Playing with the Boys," and they're just doing all that weird posing, and have you ever seen it? When you go home tonight, Kyera, go on YouTube and look up Top Gun volleyball scene.
Do you remember in It's Always Sunny they parody?
They do,
in the Lethal Weapon film that they did.
Yes, yeah, Lethal Weapon.
When they're playing volleyball in the gym. And then they have like the guys they're playing against just keep hugging for no reason at all.
Vaguely.
With no shirts on.
Yeah, this is basically what happens in this movie.
And with the boys.
There's this weird sexual chemistry between Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer through this movie. They play rivals. Maverick is Tom Cruise, he's your hero, and Iceman is Val Kilmer, and he is either the best or the second best. That's the whole idea there. Who is the best pilot? But they have all these really overly sexually charged encounters with each other. And there's a really bizarre scene where they're talking nose to nose in the locker room, because that's what guys do in the locker room. They talk as close as possible.
Real close.
They get
That's
real
what
close.
goes on in there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
locker room. If me and Chris were in a locker room right now, we would literally be touching noses.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's what you do. So they're talking nose to nose, and Maverick says to Iceman something about, I'm better than you. This is Val Kilmer's response. You have to look it up. He just looks at him and he goes, he bites.
He bites.
He just does this bite move that, I don't know what the fuck that means. And if a guy ever did that to me, I don't know what that was initiating. Whether it was initiating, are we going to fight? Are we supposed to start kissing now? It was just the weirdest thing ever.
I'm just turning around and going the other way.
Yeah. Some dude bites at in my face. I think I'm just going to go, that guy might not be someone I want to hang out with.
It just sounds like how all those UFC fights, when they're introducing the fighters to each other, it just sounds like how all those things go. Yeah, the weigh-ins. Yeah. How they go.
Oh yeah, the weigh-ins are kind of charged too. They're in their underwear. They're mad at each other. There's a lot going on there. There's an audience. That's some weird stuff.
They just got fluffed in the back.
Yeah. A little bit of fluffing. I was at work and a couple weeks ago, and I was in a meeting. One of the guys above me made a fluffing joke. And I thought, if anybody in here were to go to HR, it was just so bizarre. And I could tell, when someone says something and they know immediately they shouldn't have said it?
Yeah.
There was 40 of us in the room. and he makes a joke, and it wasn't like even referenced like sexually. It was someone came over and did something for someone, like someone couldn't do something and they did it, and he goes, "Oh, you got your fluffer." And I think he said it by mistake,
and then realized,
and everybody in the room was just like,
yeah.
Like, if anybody from HR was here, you probably wouldn't, if they knew what fluffing was. You know, if he was lucky enough not to know what fluffing is. Some people might not know.
Best to just move past that, you know, and like hope nobody really caught it.
Yeah, it was awkward, but it went away. It went away.
There you go.
So, Kyera, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you talking about Labyrinth.
Thank you for picking Labyrinth.
And thank
You're welcome.
Even though, but here's the part where we get to shine a little bit. So now is the grading portion of the show, right? So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, and if you want, you could do a Sir John. John gave a movie a 0 once. You could do that, and then half scale, no 3/4, no 2/4. What would you give Labyrinth?
You can't do 2/4?
You can do 2/4. Yeah,
all right.
You almost got me. I'm not a strong mathlete. So, in your opinion, movie-wise, close to your heart, what would you give Labyrinth?
Well, like me personally, or just in general, if I'm recommending it to people?
Oh, no, your personal, like, again, just because you love this movie doesn't mean it's a 5. To you, maybe it is. That's what I'm asking.
I'd say probably about a 4, because it's not my most favorite movie.
Okay.
Christopher said that it was generally frowned upon to make people watch the extended edition of Return of the King, so...
Okay. All right. I did want to ask you a question after this real quick because it's something that I've noticed on social media about you. But Lloyd, what would you give this?
I'm going to give it a 3.
3. Okay. Yeah. Chris, do you remember enough to be able to grade this?
I would like to give it. I would say would give it a 3 just for the Jim Henson's contribution.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, and his work and seeing that, and then the aspect that it does serve a nice little piece of nostalgia, you know, and it's definitely like a time and a place. You
That's
know?
right.
I personally was thinking the same thing along you. I'm not going to go 3. I'm going to go 2.5, and my 2.5 is based entirely on the Jim Henson aspect of it, the puppetry. If it were straight up, if this was a movie that had no Jim Henson effects, if it was played all with like regular people and not Muppets, this would probably be like a 1.5 for me, to be honest. But I don't hate it. And I'm glad you picked it because it gave me a chance to kind of revisit it. I had forgotten what David Bowie's bulge had looked like, so
now you know.
Now I remember.
That reminder. Yeah.
So the question I wanted to ask you before we go, Kyera, is it seems like, unless I'm wrong, unless like maybe you're posting the same thing a lot, do you watch The Two Towers more than any other of the Lord of the Rings movies?
Okay. So I have no life. I stay at home a lot. I'm not a very social creature. I wouldn't say that I watch it more. Because immediately when Two Towers is over, I watch Return of the King.
Okay.
So it's pretty much on par. But I do watch them both at least once a week.
Oh, sweet Jesus. And you're talking about the extended versions?
Yeah.
Wow.
Once a week? And
I bought the DVDs 20 years ago, and I haven't even watched it yet.
I saw each one of them in the movies, and you didn't even mention Fellowship. Do you not watch Fellowship?
No one watches Fellowship.
Why?
I love Fellowship.
What's wrong with Fellowship?
See, it's very controversial to say that because
I know it is.
I'll watch Fellowship maybe once a month, but it's such a slow-going movie for me that
That's interesting to me. After Return of the King came out, like maybe a year or two later, or a year later, they came out with the extended versions. And one Saturday, me and my buddy Rich from Black Sheep Collective and his brother-in-law James, who I'm friends with, and James's wife Allison, the 4 or 5 of us, we watched all 3 movies in one day. That was probably in 2005 or 6, and I have never watched another one. I mean, we're talking 12, 13 years ago, and I'm still good.
Yeah, when did those come out?
Well, Fellowship was like 01, 02 maybe, Two Towers, and 01, 02, 03, I think.
Right, I think 03 is probably the last time I watched. I took the DVD out and watched it. Yeah,
they're great movies. I'm not. There's no judging or anything. But I love learning stuff like that about people. Like once a week, you watch 2 movies that are probably 7 hours long.
I can't even watch a half-hour show once a week.
Yeah, so you could probably recite these things almost like as you're watching them, like just verbatim. Some
of the stuff, but I'm really at this point. It's more so for background noise.
So you have it on when you're doing other stuff.
Well, I'll just be like, for the most part, like I'll sit there and I'll play like a stupid word game or something, or I do crossword puzzles a lot because I'm a bit of a grandma. So I have it on. At this point, it's just background noise because there's more things out there that I don't like than what I do like. As you well know from online, I am very much a creature of habit with how much I watch MASH.
Yes, yeah,
MASH.
I think it's like an audio-visual blanket for her. You know,
I totally get that. I don't. John does that a lot. Sir John, our other host, he always watches stuff in the background. For me, if I'm going to watch something, it has to be attention.
I'll put something on the TV just for noise.
If I'm going to put noise on, it's got to be music. I'm very much like if I'm reading a comic or something or a book or whatever.
I do that too.
I throw music on. That's kind of my noise. I can't do things silently. Like if I were to sit here and read a book in silence, it wouldn't last very long. I need a little bit of extra stimulation. But MASH, she watches. Yeah, she's a big MASH fan.
Is great.
Yeah, I'm never really a big fan. I enjoy it.
I think What's wrong with you? Come on.
I know. I think it was on a lot when I was a kid, and maybe it's just one of those things that
That's why I watch it so much. It was on.
Yeah. Are you a big MASH fan, Chris? Or
not a big fan, but I watched a lot of it. I've watched a bunch of it with her, and then I used to watch it a lot when I was a kid as well. Because parents like to have it on. I think a lot of people have a problem with MASH because, honestly, because of the laugh track aspect. Like it's a strange type of comedy.
Right.
You know, it really is. And I think that's part of the charm of it is that you have this really dark, circumstance that there's supposed to be a comedy in the middle of.
Right.
And you see a lot of that. And I mean, it's a phenomenal show. He did an amazing job of balancing both of that. But I think it's just not like an easy, your normal situation comedies of the time, you knew exactly what you were getting when you watched it, and that's what it was. You have a lot of sad and dramatic moments in MASH amidst all this comedy in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
So I think it's a different type of show that a lot of people have a hard time digesting it,
And is that why you like it? Because it kind of runs your emotions when you're watching it, or?
I've just always found it to be it's odd because I've always found it to be a very comforting show. And I think that's mainly because when I was first introduced it, I watched it with my grandparents all the time.
Okay. All right. So this is making sense now. Okay. Because it is kind of weird. Someone your age, and we're not going to say your age, but you're definitely not MASH age. I think I'm young in terms of for the MASH run. You know what I mean? I think my
Were you watching MASH when they did the final episode?
I was 8, so no. Yeah. Yeah, I think
that was a big thing when that final episode came out.
I actually do remember being cognizant of it. I remember it being there's two things I remember really well about that. Is I remember it being a big deal.
Yeah.
That MASH ended and it had the biggest finale of all time, I think, or at least until maybe something recently.
At least until then, yeah,
and
for sure.
And what I remember more is because I was maybe a year older is after MASH, which lasted
I never saw that.
6. It was certain cast members, not Alan Alda. I think Harry, what's his name, the Colonel.
Harry Morgan.
Morgan and Klinger and maybe one other
Jamie
Farr and maybe one other person. And it was after everybody else left. I don't know if it was in a different setting.
It was back, and I never watched it, but it was back in, and I can't remember where Colonel Potter was from in the show, but it was back home.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and it did not last. It was like the little known Golden Girls thing. After the Golden Girls ended, there was the Golden Palace.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the spinoff, Empty Nest.
Empty Nest was on for several years, and that was good. That was Richard Mulligan, All right, so we're going off into tangents, but that's cool. This has been the Pint Movie Invitational Series, Labyrinth, with Kyera. Again, Kyera, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for explaining to me 15-year-old girls are crazy. Thank you for letting me know about your weekly.
I think you upped his score a little bit.
No, she's definitely up. Yeah, she added a half point to that for sure. Chris, thanks for tagging along.
You got it.
And as things go,
thanks for having us.
We're gonna record right now Chris's episode. So we're gonna stop this in a second and do another one. So Lloyd, what do we do?
Tally ho!
Say it.
See ya.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.